What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome back for some more Fire Emblem Heroes. And in this video I'm going to be giving you guys a banner review of CYL3 Banner Brave Echoes. I'll be taking a look at the units and I will also be going over some of their builds. And at the end I'll tell you my final verdict of who was the best free pick out of these units in my opinion. So with that being said, let us begin.
I am Queen Micaiah, 15th ruler of Dane.
Brave Micaiah is a green mage flyer with 155 BST. She's got enormous resistance and attack, and she even has a super boon in attack, which is really beneficial for nuking. But she has got low defense, low speed, and low HP pool. Her speed appears to be low, but she's deceptively fast because of her slot B skill and how her weapon functions, so she can reach the point where she will not get doubled by a lot of units and can double some of the other slow units. She comes with Light of Dawn, which is a 14 might effective weapon against armored and cavalry foes, so she's got effective damage against 2 out of 4 movement types, which is huge, and Micaiah is known for that, so even in this ult she continues the trend, and this weapon gives her +3 resistance, which makes it even better for her as a mage tank, and works really well with her slot B skill. And her weapon functions kinda like CYL3's Star, so grants bonus to Micaiah in her stats depending on the penalty the foe has in those stats. For example, with her slot B skill, she's gonna be inflicting -6 attack debuff on the foe, which means that she will get +6 attack during the combat against that foe, and this is really good because these are in combat stats that cannot be panicked, and these utilize debuffs, which is pretty easy to have with team support, so she can be an incredibly powerful unit. Thanks to this weapon and her slot B skill, she can be deceptively fast, being able to reach 40 effective speed, because the -6 speed debuff on the foe basically creates a 12-point differential between the speed stat of Micaiah and her foe. And that is really good because otherwise she would just get doubled by pretty much everyone, and because of this, she's at least able to avoid some doubles. And this weapon is really amazing, being able to give her extra stats on top of having dual effectiveness, so that is just insane. With this skill, you definitely want to run allies who can run shield skills, ploy skills, and also units like Reed, Gunthra, Veronica, Mordecai, Aversa. All of these are going to be really good allies with her, helping her with debuffs, and in Ether Raid, Shrine Structures are going to be really helpful as well. Her assist skill is Sacrifice, which is the same as original Micaiah. It's really good for healing up in emergency and also has the Harsh Command built into it, so can be useful in getting rid of the debuff. But unfortunately, because it's only the vanilla Harsh Command, it's not really able to get rid of the panic status like Harsh Command Plus. Her slotted skill is a new tier 4 skill, Attack Respawn 4. If she's adjacent to an ally, then she gets +7 attack and +7 resistance during the combat, and she's able to neutralize attack and resistance penalty on herself during the combat. So she's pretty much immune to chill attack and chill resistance during the combat, and that is really good because attack and resistance are her 2 most important stats, and this further helps her in being a nuke and also a mage tank. Her exclusive slot B skill is Yune's Whispers. I don't know what kind of nasty things Yune whispers into the ears of the enemies of Micaiah, but whatever it is, it's definitely effective because this is basically a dual sabotage skill. With her sky high resistance, this is an amazing skill because this is going to be useful in pretty much all game modes, from Arena, Arena Assault, Ether Raids to the in-game Abyssal content. A lot of the foes are going to be sticking together, and they're just going to be getting debuffed at start of Micaiah's turn. This is a global debuff just like Aversa's Night Tome, so it's going to be really annoying for the enemies. And this definitely gives Micaiah more attack during the combat and also more speed, which she definitely needs to prevent many of the doubles. This skill has pretty good synergy with Micaiah's Tome, and it can also provide utility to your team, which is definitely pretty nice. Her slot skill is another utility-based skill in ground orders. It's really good for increasing mobility of your infantry, armored, and cavalry units, and this is just amazing because she brings utility as well as power to your team. In Ether Raid's defense, this is a highly coveted skill because you're able to keep your units together, and also you can use this to set up some rally traps, so that is just amazing. Overall, Micaiah is a really powerful unit, boasting the highest resistance for any flyer in the game, and she can be useful in multiple game modes because of her dual effectiveness. In Arena and Arena Assault, armor units are really common, so the armor effectiveness helps her a lot there, and in Ether Raids, horse units are also pretty common. Not to mention, because of her green color, she has pretty good matchup against Ophelia and Reinhardt in Ether Raids. Unfortunately, because she's a flying unit, she cannot inherit Null Counter Disrupt, so she's not able to one-turn KO someone like Veronica, but nonetheless, because of her high resistance, I really doubt she's going to be taking much damage. Her dual effectiveness and dual sabotage skill definitely bring a lot of new toys for Fire Emblem teams. She does run into issues with her low defense, making her really susceptible to any kind of physical attack and even dragon units with their adaptive damage, and also her low HP pool. But that can somewhat be fixed with something like Astra Blessing or Light Blessing for increasing her HP or the bulk. So she's pretty good in that game mode and overall a pretty good unit. If you get multiple copies of her, then you definitely want to fodder her off for Attack Respond. It's a really good skill on enemy phase units and can also be run on units who have got distant counter weapons, and also in Arena because it's a 300 SP skill, so this can be given to one of the Asuka Trio members because they are rotating bonus units in Arena, and usually in Arena you're going to be sticking together and going to be rallying up your bonus units, so that can be used.
Will of the Goddess.
Her first build is a budget build. Iceberg is a really good special option on her with her high resistance. You could also run Glimmer because it's good with her damage output and also her effective damage. And basically in this build you want to run the Sacred Seal, which fits best with your team. So you can run Aerobatics, which has got good synergy with Ground Orders, or you could run Attack Speed Bond or Speed Respond, which can give Micaiah more speed, or you could just run Res Ploy for getting more damage output and gaining more resistance. Her second build is utilizing Ploy skills. Her weapon already debuffs attack and speed, so you can run this to debuff all stats of the enemies. The only thing is that these ploy skills only apply in cardinal directions and they are not really a global debuff like her slot B skill, but still this can be worked out if you want to buff up your Micaiah and also get some more support from her. Her third build is utilizing Death Blow 4. So you just want to max out the offensive potential of her in player phase, then this build is for you. Sturdy Blow is a Sacred Seal which we have recently got from the Tempest Trial, and you can just stack this up to have 63 attack in player phase and effectively have 74 attack with her slot B and Res Ploy active. So that's a lot, and that gives her really good damage output. And her fourth build is for Aether Raid's offense. Now, this is basically a low investment light season tank build. So with her high resistance, she can function as a really good mage tank in the light seasons, specifically as a counterpick against the Aether Raid's defense team that heavily rely on mages. Now, the thing which you have to keep in mind when you're setting up your Aether Raid's defense team in light season is to always have some units who can provide physical damage, because everyone and their mom is going to be running air, and a lot of people are going to be running 2 air, so they're going to be getting plus 10 resistance. So you do not want to have all kinds of mages on your defense team when it's the light season for that reason. But still, you will definitely be finding some teams here and there who do use a lot of mages in light season. So against them, Micaiah can be really good, or even in against like teams where the melee range units or the physical units are easily snipeable with Micaiah plus a dancer. So you could just take them out and then take care of the mages. So for that, Micaiah can definitely function. I've gone with Fury over Attack Respond for, even though she becomes susceptible to chill resistance again. The reason for being is that you do not want to have a unit right beside your tank because they are susceptible to getting sniped by an enemy unit after they get danced by a dancer or someone like Legendary Azura. So the risk is always there, and you definitely want to have your units 2 space away from the main tank unit that you're sending in the range of the enemy. And of course, Noontime and Soul are going to be required to keep her healthy with multiple combats. You could also run Distant Defense 3 or Fortress Defense 3 on her slot A if you don't really like Fury. The problem with this build is that she doesn't have close counters, so it can be a troublesome scenario against a team which has got a mix of mages and melee units. And that's why I said she can be used as a specific counter pick unit against those kinds of teams where she could wipe the floor with them in the light season, so that can be done. And her fifth build is for Astra Season. It's also for Aether Raid's offense. This can be changed to light season as well, but I personally think that Astra Blessing is better for her because she's able to have a bit better mixed bulk with the defense buff from Naga. With Naga, she can get triple effectiveness, which is really good, and with her high attack stat, dual effectiveness, and the synergy with debuffs, you could definitely pair her up with Aversa, Mordecai, units like that with shield skills, and she can be a really good vantage sweeper in Aether Raid's offense. The good thing about Micaiah is that she already has such a high resistance that she can definitely take care of mages, even in the Astra Season without any kind of light buffs. And you can go with Attack Smoke debuff because that gives you plus 7 attack because of how her weapon functions. So Attack Smoke is incredibly useful to you, and as I said, it's highly recommended to pair her up with other allies who can debuff. You definitely want to provide that support because she's not going to be running her exclusive slot B skill with this, and you definitely have to watch out for Hardy Bearing users, Myogi Daggers, and Fire Sweep Weapon users, because for any kind of vantage strats, people have these kinds of units on their defense team to stop these, so you definitely have to play around them. And the sixth and the final build is a tank build for Aether Raid's offense. Once again, as I said, I kind of prefer her to have the Astral Blessing for extra defense, so she can have this kind of mixed bulk. And this is more of a tank build than a sweeper build with Vantage. So this requires you to stack up Warp Flyers and also have defense and res debuffs on the enemies to make her stocky. And she can actually be pretty bulky with that kind of setup. And you want to have dull range so that you can ignore the buffs of range units who get danced by someone like Azura. Noontime and Soul once again for longevity is needed. You could also run Pulse Smoke. It's a bit expensive option, but Attack Smoke also works fine. The problem with this build is that Micaiah is pretty hard to get because she's going to be a 5-star exclusive unit. And merges matter a lot for any kind of tank build. I'm still presenting this as a theory craft at what she can do at unmerged. You definitely need merges on this kind of build for the long-term use.
The crown was never something I wanted.
Brave Camilla is a flying healer, which is a pretty good class because we don't have a lot of units in that, and most of the other flying healers are seasonal units. She has got the highest base speed for a healer in the game at base 37, and she has got base 33 attack. At first, this base attack might look low, but with her weapon and her slotty skill, she can definitely be a pretty ferocious queen in the player phase. Her HP pool is workable and her defenses aren't really anything impressive. She does have a super boon and resistance, so that can be useful for her magical bulk if you get that. She comes with her legendary staff, Sangreether, which is a 14 might weapon with inbuilt dazzling staff effect, and in the player phase it gives her +3 speed and +3 attack, which is really unique, and no other healer has got that kind of weapon, so it's really good for increasing her offenses. And after combat, she inflicts the gravity status on target and foes within 1 spaces of the target. Gravity effect definitely has its applications in kiting foes, and with her flyer mobility it's going to be really helpful. She's got Restore Plus as her healing assist skill, which is going to be helpful in a metagame where debuffs are everywhere and also the negative status effects. And Restore Plus does have its applications in Aether Raid's defense as well. She's got Attack Speed Push 4 as her slotted skill. Compared to the vanilla push skills, this is definitely one of the best upgrades in the history of upgrades, giving you +7 attack and +7 speed if you are above 25% health. And after combat, if the unit attacked, then it deals 5 damage to the unit. So on healers, this is basically their best offensive option because they can run Live to Serve Sacred Seal or even run Martyr Plus as their healing assist and be in the range of this push skill. And Camilla herself gets +10 attack and speed during the player phase with her slotted skill and her staff, reaching 57 attack and 47 speed without any kind of buffs. So she's essentially a colorless mage for how offensive she is for a healer. And she also has Wrathful Staff, of course, which is going to be adding up to her offensive potential. It's really needed. And Attack Tactic is her slotsy skill. A bit underwhelming because we are getting that as a Sacred Seal, and we already have that on a 4-star unit. If it was something more useful, then that would have been really nice. But nonetheless, her base kit definitely makes her into a very, very powerful and offensive healer. Now, the inherent flaw of being an offensive healer is that you're not having access to any kind of special damaging moves like Glimmer, Moonbow, Luna, or anything like that. The best special that you have access to is Miracle. Miracle can be set up with relative ease because of her Restore Plus. Overall, Camilla is a very powerful offensive healer with the mobility of a flyer, which is definitely really fantastic, and she blows out all of the flying healers out of the water who are not named Bridal Fiorm. Bridal Fiorm has her niche of shutting down dancers in Aether Raid, so Camilla unfortunately cannot really touch that. And comparing to Brave Veronica, Camilla is simply just more offensive. Veronica provides more utility to your team. She can definitely get the kills with her staff, but she can also set up kills for your allies with her debuffs and buffs. So that adds an element of utility which unfortunately Camilla lacks. But if you're trying to use her as an offensive unit who has got Razzle Dazzle combo, then she does the job damn well. If you get multiple copies of her, then Attack Speed Push 4 is definitely the skill you could fodder her off for. And as I said, this is a really good option for any kind of healer because of Martyr Plus and Live to Serve Seal. This can also be given to other offensive units, and this does go well with self-healing skills like Mystic Boost and Renewal Sacred Seal, so that can be done.
Time for your punishment.
Camilla doesn't have a lot of build options because her role as a unit is pretty straightforward. And you want to run Live to Serve Sacred Seal as I mentioned before because it has got good synergy with the push skill. And her second build is a splash damage build, so you can have double Savage Blow and have Martyr Plus for the self-healing. And if you're going to be using her in Aether Raid's defense, then you want to have Restore Plus instead because it can lead to some Restore traps and loops, so you definitely want to run that.
Will you attend my ascension ceremony?
Brave Eliwood is the Lance Cavalier with 162 BST, and as of making this video, he has got the highest BST for any kind of Cavalier in the game right now. But I believe that this BST boost is going to be applied to the other Cavaliers who are released after this point on. As for his stats, he ties for the highest attack for a Lance Cavalier with Quan at base 37, and he's got pretty good speed at 35, and with his weapon, it becomes 38. He's got a workable defense stat at 32 with his HP pool, but unfortunately he has got really piss poor resistance, and being a Dragon Slayer, if any kind of dragon is able to survive his one hit and able to retaliate back to him, then he's gonna be taking a huge hit. He comes with Nini's Ice Lance, which is a reference to Ninian, who can be a wife of Eliwood, and it's effective on dragon and beast foes. Now, being effective against dragon is fine because we have got a lot of dragon slayers, but being a beast slayer is something new as of right now. And this weapon also gives him +3 speed, and if he initiates combat, he gets +4 to all of his stats during the combat. So basically it's a spectrum blow, and this is a really powerful weapon, giving him a niche despite him being in a really oversaturated class type of a Lance Cavalier. So he's able to hit incredibly hard against dragon units and beast foes, and he already has a pretty good attack stat. His assist is Rally Attack Defense Plus, which has got good synergy with the Ruse skill, and Swift Sparrow 3 is a slot A skill. So he already gets the Spectrum Blow effect from his weapon in the player phase, and Swift Sparrow on top of that makes him incredibly powerful in the player phase. And Attack Speed Ruse is basically a way of him supporting his allies with Rally Attack Defense Plus. So if Eliwood gets rallied, or if he rallies himself, then he's able to inflict -5 attack and speed debuff and the guard status on foes in cardinal directions of Eliwood and the target, and that's a pretty good way of supporting, and the debuff in the offensive stats is definitely going to be pretty nice and can be used in Aether Raid's defense actually. Speed Opening is another support skill which Eliwood has got, and this is pretty good if you pair him up with allies who tend to fight away from their allies. So this can be useful in that regard with those kinds of allies and with Gale Force units that you're going to be using. So overall, Eliwood is a really powerful player phase Cavalier, and even though he's an oversaturated class type of Lance Cavaliers, his Lance is definitely a big saving grace for him because it lets him have this niche of being a Beast Slayer and also being a Blue Dragon Slayer, so that's really good. And I can see him being really effective on Aether Raid's defense teams because Mufasa is a pretty popular super tank which a lot of people use, so having this kind of super effective beast damage is going to be really helpful in taking down those kinds of bulky units, and by those I mean basically Mufasa, because let's be honest, all of the other beast units aren't really all that hard to take out. He's the bulkiest unit of them all, so he can be really useful in Arena Assault and in Aether Raids because of the effectiveness and just the raw offensive power which he's able to have with Swift Sparrow 3 and his Lance makes him a really solid player phase unit. If you get multiple copies of Eliwood, then you could certainly fodder him off for Swift Sparrow 3. You could also use him for attack speed ruse, as it's going to be useful in Aether Raid's defense as I stated before with rally traps, and you could also have this on your arena cheerleaders because you're mainly going to be using rally skills on your units.
Watch over me, Father.
Eliwood's first build is utilizing Sturdy Blow as a Sacred Seal and using Glimmer. He could run some other specials as well, but his damage output is so high that Glimmer is fine as a special. He could also run Mirror Strike if it becomes a Sacred Seal because it's gonna be giving him a bit more resistance against dragons, so that can be useful. His second build is utilizing Desperation, Heavy Blade, and Glimmer. So he can trigger Glimmer when he's in the Desperation range with the help of Heavy Blade, and he has plenty of attack to make use of this Sacred Seal. His third build is a bit more expensive with Ruptured Sky from Byleth. That plays into his strength because he's already a Beast Slayer and a Dragon Slayer, so that special is really good with him. His fourth build is utilizing Lull Attack Defense, which is pretty nice for neutralizing the defense buffs that the foe might have, and this allows him to hit harder because this can definitely stack up with visible debuffs, so that's why it can be pretty helpful in nuking. His fifth and the final build is utilizing Gale Force, so you can run a Rouse skill because he's a cavalry unit and he is going to be fighting away, so in a way he can be self-sufficient. And Heavy Blade Gale Force setup is pretty standard. I would say that this is not specifically for Aether Raid's offense because there are many units that could do that better with a slaying weapon. because in Ether raids you're gonna be facing many frail units, and there, like Eliwood, I'm afraid, will just one-shot them. So this is more for the other content, the other in-game content or other modes of the game. In Ether raids, you want to have something like Heavy Blade and Quick on Pulse, and not really have extreme attacks so that you don't one-shot these frail mages.
I'm told Celica wore an unusual outfit like this before.
Brave Alm is a 172 BST sword infantry unit. He ties for the highest base attack with CYL3 for sword infantry units, but unlike CYL3, he actually has a legendary weapon. His speed is workable and he also has high defense. The only thing he's lacking is resistance. This time around he comes with Draco Falchion. This is essentially a 19 might sword that's effective on dragon foes, and its effect is pretty similar to Ephraim's, where you want to be away from your allies, you want to have more foes within 2 spaces than the allies, so essentially you want to fight alone. And this kind of playstyle definitely suits Alm and his character. It's a contrast to Brave Celica, who wants to be near her allies with her royal sword. And if he has more foes than allies within 2 spaces, then he gets +5 to all of his stats during the combat. Draconic Aura is his special, which is really nice with his high base attack, but Glimmer is also pretty good because his damage output is ridiculous. Sense Skill is his exclusive slotty skill, which deals 25% damage based on Alm's attack, but after combat if he attacked, then it deals 7 damage to him. This skill makes Alm a monster. Like, this skill is absurd because you're able to get true damage out of this on every hit, and that means that you can actually mess up some of the bulkiest blue units in the game, and that makes Alm a huge physical nuke. He's got Chill Defense as a slot B skill, which is definitely pretty nice for increasing his damage output, but honestly, this isn't really his best slot B skill. He could definitely run something more offensive. And his slot C skill is a new line of skill that we're gonna be getting. It's called Threaten Attack Speed 3. So it's pretty much like Mini Surtur's Menace. It's kind of functioning similar to that. So if the unit is within 2 spaces of a foe, it grants +5 attack and speed to him, and it deals -5 attack and speed debuff on the foes within 2 spaces. Now this is definitely more optimal on enemy phase units rather than on offensive player phase units. Overall, Alm is a really powerful sword infantry unit. He has got really high attack and even has a super boon in attack. Of course he will have that. He has got the big dong energy with him, so he can hit incredibly hard, insane physical nuke, but the problem arises not from his stats or skills, but rather his class. Sword infantry class is oversaturated and bloated, which means that it's hard for Alm to stand out. He is definitely one of the best sword infantry units in the game, but so are many of the other units, and literally like few weeks ago, people who bought 3 houses got male Violet for free, and he was a sword infantry unit. We have Legendary Ike, who is also a sword infantry unit. There are already so many really good sword infantry units in the game, so it doesn't really incentivize people to pull for him or for summon for him, and that's the reason why he's probably the least popular unit from this batch of Choose Your Legends from what I've seen, which is really sad because Alm is a really popular character. It's not like he is bad. Actually, far from it. He's a really insane nuke that can mess up some of the tankiest blue units, but it's just that his class messes him up. Last year, Brave Celica, his wife, also shared the same fate, and it seems like Alm is truly with Celica till the end of the line. Alm doesn't really have the best skills for fodder other than this new Threaten Attack Speed skill. This is a 300 SP skill, so this can definitely be used on some arena cheerleaders or your arena core if you want to have that kind of SP to reach the max score.
Trust me now!
He might not be the most picked unit from this batch, but our boy in the Dong armor definitely has some juicy builds, as you will see in a moment. His first build is a budget build utilizing Heavy Blade with Draconic Aura. It's just really basic, and with his high attack, it goes really well. His second build is utilizing Desperation over Chill Defense on his slot B, and with his slot C skill and his Draco Falchion buff that he can get during the combat, he can reach 45 speed, which is pretty decent for doubling. So he can run Desperation, and with Heavy Blade, you're able to trigger Glimmer when you're in the range of it. You could also run Brazen Seals in place of Heavy Blade if you want to. He has got incredible damage output, so he can function as a Vantage Sweeper, but the only problem is that he's gonna be just a melee Vantage Sweeper. He cannot inherit Distant Counter because Sense Skill is the most important part of his base kit. You cannot take that off. If you take that off, then it just removes his niche and his uniqueness. So that's the only problem with this build, but other than that, he can be really powerful. And just for the note, the attack he gets from Brazen Attack Defense and his Draco Falchion during the combat, that actually counts towards the true damage. So Brazen Attack is perfectly fine if you want to get more true damage. You don't really have to run something like Attack +3 to increase his visible attack. His fourth build is utilizing Special Spiral. He could certainly spam Glimmer, which is a really powerful special with his insane damage output, but it's definitely going to be an expensive build. His fifth build also uses Special Spiral, but here we're using an AoE special. True damage from Sense Skill does translate into the AoE specials as well, so that is absolutely amazing, and an AoE special like this is already really good with his high attack. So you would want to run Heavy Blade to have infinite AoE specials once you set it up with Special Spiral. Definitely an expensive build. And the next build is even more expensive because it takes Wrath and also Time's Pulse from Sothis. So you're able to get more true damage with Wrath, which is just going to be making him strike like a meteor with that much damage output. It's just insane how powerful he can get with these kinds of skills. And his final build is utilizing Brave Sword. So the true damage you get is per hit. And if you can quad, you get 4 hits. You have 4 hits with true damage. And that is just insane when you combine that with Luna. That can kill some of the bulkiest lance units in the game. So you want to run Desperation and Brash Assault Sacred Seal. The damage you receive from Sense Skill is synergetic with those two skills. But still, it's going to be taking quite a bit of setup. But once the setup is done, and if he can quad attack, he's going to be a slaughter machine. You could also run Gale Force as a special. And now the time for final verdict. So who is the best free pick out of Choose Your Legends 3? Well, in my opinion, it is Brave Micaiah. The reason for that is her versatility. She is useful in various game modes from Arena Assault, Ether Raids, and Abyssal content. She is pretty amazing because of the dual effectiveness that she has got on armor and on cavalry units. Not only that, she brings a lot of utility with her in the form of the dual sabotage skill that she has got on slot B and also ground orders. So that makes her a pretty good unit. And as I said, she can be used in various game modes. In Ether Raid, she can act as a tank and also as a Vantage Sweeper. In Arena Assault, of course, you're going to be facing a lot of armor units. We also haven't received any kind of really good green free-to-play unit. We have Legendary Ike for the red color from the story mode, also Fiorm for the blue color. We have Air for colorless, and also Veronica or Brave Lynn if you picked any of those. So for green, Micaiah kind of fills that. So it's this mixture of a lot of those factors, which in my opinion makes her the best free pick out of this Choose Your Legends. The general consensus is that Brave Micaiah is the most picked Brave unit out of this patch. The poll I conducted on YouTube, Brave Micaiah has got 53% there. The Twitter poll which I did has Brave Micaiah at 52%, and finally the Reddit poll which I did, it has got Brave Micaiah at 63%. So for that reason, I'm personally going to be picking Brave Micaiah, and I'm going to be using her in my free-to-play guides. So if you do follow free-to-play guides, then you can pick her. And even if you do not use free-to-play guides, Micaiah is still an excellent unit because of the things I stated before. And if you don't really want to pick Micaiah and you don't really care about free-to-play guides, then the second best option is a tie between Eliwood and Camilla. Now, Eliwood is really amazing with his dual effectiveness and the fact that he's such a powerful player phase unit. And if you don't have a flying healer, then you can go with Camilla. She's an amazing ranged nuke, and on the bottom priority is our boy in the Dong armor, Alm. Unfortunately, he's not bad at all, far from it. It's just that he's messed up by being a sword infantry unit, which is a bloated pool. So that is going to be it for this review. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, then please be sure to leave a like. It will help me tremendously. And please be sure to share this video with your friends. And make sure to subscribe for more Fire Emblem Heroes content. And also Fire Emblem 3 Houses content. I'm doing a Let's Play on it. And please be sure to hit the notification bell and click on all so that you can always get the updates to my videos whenever I upload. Because expecting YouTube sub boxes to work is like expecting Micaiah to not come with a dual effective weapon. So with that being said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.